So here we have the original Game Boy. It came out in 1989, I believe. It's an extremely popular handheld console, as I'm sure you know. And I got this from eBay. It's described as not working. So the power came on, but it didn't work. What wasn't described to me was this, which I'll come to a bit later. Now what also came with it is this cartridge, which is some kind of pirated 95-in-1 cartridge with a Judge Dredd sticker stuck over the top, and this manual too. So I expect it's maybe a Japanese Game Boy, but that shouldn't matter too much because games aren't region locked, so I can play games from anywhere across the globe on this Game Boy. It shouldn't matter. So I want to test this, but before I do, I want to talk a bit more about this here. So when I saw this, I was surprised because this wasn't mentioned in the eBay ad. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but what it looks like to me is super glue vapor. So when I feel around the edge of this bezel here, it's hard to show on camera, but it has a slight lip to it. It's slightly raised around the edge here. And what was common is that these bezels do fall off on these old Game Boys. And someone, I think, has perhaps tried to stick it on with super glue, and potentially that might be some super glue vapor that I'm going to have to fix. Now, if we turn it round the back, I want to show you another thing on these Game Boys. They have these tri-wing screws. I've taken a few of them out here already. It's meant to add extra tamper resistance. So because it's not a typical Phillips or flathead, the screwdrivers are a bit harder to get, less common to come by. And so it's supposed to add some tamper resistance to the Game Boy. They're a real pain if you don't have the right type of screwdriver. I ordered one online. It's taken quite a while to come. So I tried to go around my local hardware stores to find one. I couldn't find one. So what I did is I ended up making one. So I used my Dremel to cut into what was a triangular screw bit and make this. Now I wouldn't necessarily recommend doing something like that. It took me longer than I wanted. It took me about half an hour. It's just that I grew impatient and I couldn't wait to open this up and begin fixing it. But I recommend just buying one if one's available, waiting for it to come in the post. But in this case, I made my own, which is something you can do. So I have some new batteries here. We're going to give it a test. Now, I wouldn't normally take the screws out before testing it, just in case it actually did work. But we know there's damage to the screen already, so I'm going to have to open it up anyway. So I thought I would test the screwdriver to make sure it worked before testing the Game Boy itself. Let's chuck it on. Nothing's coming up there. I can't see any battery light whatsoever. And that's definitely on. Let's roll the batteries around a bit. I've got them in the right way, haven't I? Yep, they're all definitely in there. Maybe I'll place the backing on, see if that makes any difference. I don't expect it to. Right, so it's not even turning on. That's interesting. Let's pop a game in. Maybe, I thought there was some sort of Game Boy screen, even without the game. Let's pop a game in. Let's see if that turns on now. Yeah, I should be seeing something on the battery there. Let's roll the batteries around a little bit. Nothing. So it's not even as the ad is described. It's not even turning on now. Right, okay. So I wonder if that was always the case, or maybe in transit something has happened. Okay, so clearly it could be a power issue. So let's start from the battery pack. Let's take a look at these contacts to see what condition they're in. So I can see that one's pretty good here, but I can see some green on that contact there, some muckiness, and I wonder if that might be the culprit. Oh, we got some more of it on the bottom there as well. Yeah, but the top one, particularly there, looks fairly bad. So maybe that is the problem. Could be as simple as that. Okay, I'm just going to take out these last 3 screws, and then we should be able to open her up and take a better look at that battery compartment, or if there's anything else that looks a bit wrong. All right, there we go. So I had a bit of trouble getting some of these screws out. I think that's more due to my DIY screw head, and that's another reason why I should probably buy one. But we have it open now. I see there's a little ribbon cable here. I'm going to be very careful to pull this out without damaging anything. So it looks like the Game Boy separates into two halves. On this front half we have our speaker, volume control. We've got obviously all the screen and everything behind that, so I'm going to need to get to that at some point. And thankfully, it looks like we've got Phillips screws, thank goodness. So no more tri-wing screws to deal with at this point. Okay, so I'll deal with the screen later. Let's get to this half. This is where the battery compartment is. And looks like if I want to get to those... If I want to get to that, maybe I've got to take this board off. So a few more Phillips screws, and that should do it. Okay, that might be it. So let's see if I can pull the board out. Got a switch here up top. I'll leave that in there. Okay. Is there something else holding it in? Maybe. No, there we go. Gently pull that out. Okay, so it's getting caught up there. And the spring, let's see if I can slot that out. There we are. Let's turn that around. Okay, we've got the, let's have a look what we have with the CPU. Probably some memory on the board there as well. Okay, now let's get a closer look at this spring here. So just having a closer look at this spring, we do have this nasty sort of bluey green kind of stuff. I wonder if there's been a battery leak or something that's caused that to happen. But the other contact looks pretty good. There's no issues with that one as far as I can tell. Just this one looks like it might be the problem. So let's get the multimeter and we'll just test to see if there's making connection with the board. So all I'm going to do is set my multimeter to continuity, and then we'll just check the connection there. So put one on the spring contact here, and that leads to the back side of the board here. Yeah, that seems to be it. I'm just going to test the leads. So leads are working. Yeah, that seems to be the problem. So let's just test these to make sure they're okay. So that one's working fine. So when I touch the metal plate that this spring is attached to, and this backboard here, part here, there's continuity. Then when I touch this, we got nothing. So that's the issue there. Let's test out the other ones down below as well, just to make sure there's nothing wrong with those. Yep. So these are fine. It's just that top spring there that's causing the issue. So if I replace that, or if I clean it, then hopefully that should fix it. So I've had my gloves on for this part, as I'm possibly dealing with some pretty nasty battery chemicals here. That's what I expect it might be, so just in case, I've got my gloves on. And I have some masking tape as well, just to keep any chemicals away from the circuit board as I'm cleaning it. So first up here, we have some white vinegar to neutralize and remove the potential alkali battery corrosion. We have some baking soda in water. It's a mild abrasive and also neutralize any acid from the vinegar. And then in the last tub, we have some water. So what I'll do is I apply the white vinegar, then leave it for about a minute to loosen that muck off, clean it off, then apply the baking soda to neutralize any remaining acid and also acts as a bit of an abrasive to remove any last gunk. And then just use the water to wash it all off, and then I'll dry it and that should be done. So that's got most of it. As you can see, there still is a little bit left. That's probably going to need a bit more elbow grease. I think I'll use something like maybe a small screwdriver to get in there and try to pick the rest of that off. So that's what I'll do now. I'll just point out that I used a bit of masking tape here to cover the cartridge slot below because it has gaps in it. I didn't want any of that battery crud getting inside, and I'm glad I did now because there is quite a bit coming off. Okay, I'm happy with that. If that battery compartment is the issue that's causing it not to turn on, then that should fix it. So now that's done, I'm going to reassemble that half and look at the other half where the screen is to see if we can fix that. I've never taken an original Game Boy apart before, so it's interesting to see how it's put together. You can see there's quite a few more screws involved here than the other half. That's probably because this front half you're pushing down on the buttons and it needs to be held more securely into place. At least that's what I assume. Thankfully these screws are Phillips head screws, so it should be quite easy to take this one apart and we can have a closer look at that screen. Okay, I've been trying to lift this off and I noticed there is something else in addition to those screws. We have these clips. I can see there's, if I focus in on the camera, there's two here and there's another one just along that side. I think that's all the clips. So if I can pop those clips, then hopefully the front should come off. Okay, that feels like it's going to go. Seems to be stuck on some of these pegs, but if I just gently, I don't want to, there we go. And there we are, so the screen and the buttons. So someone has definitely opened this Game Boy before because you can see on this screen, if I catch the light in the right way, you can see there is some marks on it. Hopefully they can come off, and there's also some fingerprints on it. And I noticed as well on this copper bit, there are some fingerprints too. I wondered if I made it myself, but I think it's because someone's opened it up before and tried to fix it, I assume. So yeah, you can see it's a bit dirty here. It shouldn't be too hard to get off those fingerprints. Hopefully the other marks are cleanable, but they've really made a messy job of it. And then obviously here we have the screen protector with that, what I think is glue residue. So that should come off pretty easy with some isopropyl alcohol, I expect. But I don't want to keep that original screen protector because, number one, it is fairly scratched on the outside. Even though I could clean it and to make it look better, I do have this whole new case. And along with it comes another new screen protector. And as far as I can tell, it's almost identical to the original one. In fact, I don't notice any difference. So it probably makes more sense if I just replaced the whole thing. And so that's how it looks. If I put it next to it, you can see it looks pretty much like the original. I can't tell any difference between the two. So first, to clean this screen, I think a little bit of glass cleaner on a microfiber cloth should do the trick. There we go. Thankfully, all of those marks came out, so that glass cleaner did the trick. Okay, I've taken the buttons out, and now for that screen protector. What I'm going to do, just spray a bit of isopropyl alcohol on the screen on the inside, and then I'm just going to rub it in and try to get it into the cracks around the edges to try and loosen some of that glue, so it makes it easier for me to pop it out. Hopefully I can pop it out without damaging it, but if I do damage it, then I always have that new screen protector, which I'm going to use anyway, so it doesn't bother me too much. Okay, this last little corner here, and that's off. And I can see that, yeah, the glue is stuck on so tight, it's actually ripped part of the screen protector off with it. So that screen protector is no good now, which is fine. I've got a new one. Now, my only problem is that trying to get that off, I'll zoom in and I'll show you. The screen protector is partly still on it. So I'm going to have to scrape that off, which is probably not going to be easy. I'll use a bit of isopropyl alcohol. I'll use a scraper. I will probably mark the plastic, which is fine. I don't mind about that, seeing as it will be covered, so you won't see any scratches or anything like that on the plastic. It's just going to be potentially quite a difficult job because that glue looks pretty tough. So yeah, let's see how we go. Okay, let's rub it down with isopropyl alcohol first. So now I'll spray some more isopropyl alcohol on and then I'll try and scrape it off. Although I'm not sure how successful I'm going to be. I can already tell this glue is really like rock solid on here. So give it my best shot and see how much of it I can get off. So you can see I've scraped quite a bit of the glue off, but there's still quite a bit left, and I'll show you why I need to scrape it off. Because if I put this replacement screen protector over it, you can already see it's not level. And so I do need to make sure that the surface is as flat as possible so that it fits in properly. So I'm going to need something a bit more heavy duty. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try my Dremel. Now it's back to where I first started making that tri-wing screwdriver using my Dremel drill, except this time I was trying to get rid of the excess glue along that bezel edge. So I used a sanding bit and even a grinding bit. Now using a grinding bit might have been a bit excessive, but I wanted to get as much of that glue off as I could without spending too much time trying to fix this. And I did keep the speed of the Dremel drill quite low, so I had more control over it. And I didn't take too much of the original Game Boy plastic away with it, but unfortunately some of the original Game Boy plastic did come away with the glue. But that's okay because this bezel edge won't be seen anyway when I put the screen protector on it. And there we are. You can see I've scratched the original plastic along that edge, but I've also got rid of most of the glue. And I believe it should be pretty much flat now. So if I try this new screen protector, we should see it fits in there, and there we go. Yeah, it's pretty much flush, and I'm happy with that. So let's stick it in and reassemble the Game Boy, wash the buttons and some of the other bits, and then see if it's working. Let's pop in my 95-in-1 game cart and give it a go. The battery lights come on and there's sound and the screen looks fine to me. Doesn't look like there's any additional issues. The buttons are responsive. Now let's try the volume slider and the contrast just to make sure that everything is working as it should. Yep. And contrast. There we go. So this one was a bit of an unexpected one. The electrical issue was really simple, just a corroded battery terminal, so I didn't expect it to be that easy. But at the same time, I also didn't expect to have a dodgy screen protector. So that's it for this one. Take care, and I hope you can join me in the next video.